Hi, everyone, and welcome to the London Community Week podcast. Today, we are really glad to have a senior leader, part of the community industry, with us. This show is where we spotlight the brilliant minds shaping the future of the community building across UK and beyond. I'm your host today, founder of Led by Community. My name is Francisco. If you're part of a startup, nonprofit, or global SaaS company, and you are driven by connection, real impact, and community first thinking, this one is for you. So let's kick things off. Today, we have Nicole Saunders. She's actually a community professional with a ton of experience. She's right now a CX executive. She has been also a podcast host and community strategist with over 15 years of experience leading customer engagement at high growth B2B companies. She is the founder of CXN Consulting, co-host of the CX Nexus podcast, and currently serves as senior director of CX strategy at Higher Logic. Just kudos to our friends at Higher Logic because they just become global sponsors for all community weeks of 2025. Thank you, Higher Logic. Also, she led community and customer marketing at Zendesk and Coupa Software. A passionate connector and mentor, Nicole brings people first lens to every customer experience she helps shape. So, Nicole, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Francisco. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I'm pumped. I'm really excited to learn from you, to listen your origins because that is like very like the exciting part. Today, now we can see you as a senior leader, part of our industry. People love you, love your work. Of course, your contributions has been really impactful over the years. But we want to know like how everything started, and this podcast is exactly about that idea to learn from the very beginning, everything about you. So let us know how communities started. Like which communities are you involved these days, please?
So these days, I'm obviously engaged with Higher Logic Vanilla's success community. I'm also starting to engage with the Gain, Grow, Retain community, which is one of the organizations that we help run. And then I'm going to be progressively engaged with all of our customers' communities and helping to advise those. So those are the main ones that I'm helping manage. I also participate in quite a few both community and customer marketing communities. So you can find me in a whole bunch of different spaces talking all about how to connect and help people.
Oh, sounds great. Sounds great. Roll and Retain is amazing. I have been sneaking around and is one of my favorites. Yes, I think that.
Yeah, I've got plans. We're going to do a lot with it this year, I think.
Oh, sounds great. That sounds great. That sounds great. And about your community story, like the
Yeah.
origins, how was that? How did you end up kind of supporting this this part of the customer experience, the community? It was planned. You were kind of planning your way around, or was an accident? Please.
Well, I would say that I've always been a community builder at heart. Like, even when I look back at high school or as a little kid, I was always the person that was getting everyone together. I was always on student council. I helped run fine arts week at my high school. I was always trying to find ways to connect people to each other and get a group of people organized around an idea and do something with it. But as far as my career goes, I started out as a freelance writer. So when I graduated from college, I started writing for magazines and doing feature articles and stuff. This was back when most magazines were still printed and sent in the mail, right? Obviously, not long after that, everything went online and all of the articles were pay per click. So I had to start learning how to build my own community and my own followers so I could drive people to my articles so that I can still make money writing. So I learned about all the social media tools, blogging, newsletters, all of these different ways that you start to connect people and build a group. And through that, I ended up interning at a social media agency and then building out their community management program. So it's funny because I remember
Oh,
way back in about 2014, it was Community Manager Awareness Day. And here I was scheduling my tweets for all my clients and things. And I started seeing all these people talking about Community Manager Awareness Day. So I clicked into it and I was like, oh my gosh, community management. That's what I do, because I'd been trying to figure out how to describe what I was doing for all of these clients. So that was when I first started calling myself a community manager, but I think I've always been one. And then through that internship, I worked at that agency for several years. I started doing social media and comms and actual community management, discussion forums and things like that for a number of our clients, I found that I really liked the tech startups. That was really attractive to me. I eventually landed a contract with Built In, so I helped launch Built In
Oh, oh,
Colorado, and that was probably my biggest sort of like first foray into actually building a true community and connecting people and building out events. I also helped found a young professionals organization in Denver. And then those experiences got me recruited up Silicon Valley, where I got hired at a VR startup almost 10 years ago. So,
oh,
like, we
wow.
were early at that point, and I was doing all these different things for them there. I worked there for about 3 years, and then I joined Zendesk, where I became over time the head of community and led all of the programs there, including the discussion forums, user groups, community events and webinars, and customer advocacy. So it's one of those things that, as I tell this story right now, looking back, it sounds like a very linear path. It was not. Of course, I
Uh-huh.
kind of wandered my way into it. But I think the key to me is I was always attracted to connecting people, helping people, and being an effective communicator.
Yeah, I think that those are kind of the core skills. Like communication is essential, like to be able to bring people together. Also to like articulate, especially when we run product communities, articulate the product benefits and education. Yeah, I think that's key. And yeah, I think that is it's exciting story. I'm curious if you can remind us how big was the Zendesk community when you recently left them?
I mean, tens of thousands of users. It was big. It
Yeah.
was a lot of people, especially once you started looking at all of the different programs that were under our umbrella and who was engaged with it.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And these days, like we can see, like you have been, like already like going through a bit of a journey. But what keeps you motivated these days? Like, what is that fire that ignites Nicole every day?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it comes back to some of those core values of wanting to help people and wanting to connect them, and it's the human side of tech. I've always loved tech because it's innovative, it's creative, it's interesting, it's always evolving, it's always sort of on the front edge of change. But I like doing community within that space as really staying connected to the human side of all of it. And I think right now, and this is going to be part of my talk in London, we're in a really interesting phase of evolution and change, both in terms of technology and in terms of the role that communities can play because of those shifts in technology. And so to me, it's just exciting. It's never the same. I also have always loved the aspect of community building that is getting to touch all the different parts of the business. I told you
Yeah,
I started a lot of my journey in very small startups, and I liked those because you could have a lot of impact and you got to do a lot of different things. No 2 days were the same. And community management maintains that. Even at larger organizations, you're one of the only units that touches almost every department in the
yeah.
company and gets to have that influence. And I've just always loved that aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's cross-functional. That's one of the privileges I would say that we have when we are part of the community teams. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And well, you mentioned a bit. I have the title of your talk for next week, now part of the London Community Week. It says, "This magic moment, reimagining community for what comes next."
Yes. So if
Tell
anyone
us,
knows the
tell us.
song, This Magic Moment from the 50s, you're welcome. It's now stuck in your head. It's going to be stuck in my head for weeks, I think. But yeah, I think you'd have to live under a rock to not be aware that we're in a really interesting time, right? There's AI technologies that are changing. There's the role that private equity has been playing and how it's affecting all sorts of business. There's the really recent major shifts with the biggest players in the community platforms. And so there's just a lot of things sort of coalescing around the community space that are changing. And so, what I'm going to be talking about is kind of giving some of that context and then really encouraging people to embrace that change and be proactive in thinking about how we're designing communities for the future. One of my big points is when things are shifting under our feet, when we're uncomfortable, when we're overwhelmed, we have a tendency to kind of put on blinders and just focus on our little space and like not want to rock the boat. And we actually need to do the opposite of that. We need to get out there and really be looking at how we can shift. And a couple of the key points I really want to talk about are how communities are increasingly becoming more and more cross-functional. I was just talking about that I've always loved how community touches on all of these things, but I don't know that we've always built all of the programs and the bridges that we need to. We still tend to sort of stay in our lane a little bit. And so I want to talk about how to build those kinds of relationships, how that helps create stability and drive more business value, as well as more member value in the communities. And then I'm going to give a really good example of how I did this at Zendesk with bringing our customer advocacy program together with community. And I picked that example for a specific reason because I am a really big fan of customer marketing and community coming closer together. And I thought about just talking about that aspect, but I think there's some bigger context here. But that's probably a theme that's going to come up for me a lot this year, is talking about how do we join forces between these two teams and really start to leverage communities to accelerate customer advocacy programs.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, just like for everyone to know that Nicole Saunders is kicking off actually the community level conference on day one. So yeah, it's like to put the battery pack with energy to kick off the
Yes,
day.
it'll be a good
Exciting.
start.
Exactly. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing a glimpse. Now we know, a lot of exciting things are going to happen. We are going to connect with so many people, and we are going to also celebrate wins. We have a part on this interview, about the wins, but sometimes the strongest lessons are learned through failures that we have through our journeys. Do you remember, no, just briefly about this, no, but any failure that maybe help you advance or to even like do a few steps forward after?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to always think about the customer experience. So, like I said, one of the things I'm going to talk about is how my community team partnered with the customer marketing team at Zendesk, and we built out and co-owned the customer advocacy program. And that was really successful in a lot of ways. But the thing that I wish that we had done differently was to actually engage with our advocates through the community space. We had a different platform that we were using for customer advocacy. And so here we had our best users, right? Our most passionate, most excited members of the community actually leaving the forum to go participate in the customer
Mm.
advocacy stuff. And at the time, it was what made sense with the technology that we had and what was available on the market. But looking back, and if I were to do it again today, I would embed it directly in the community and
Yeah.
accelerate that. I'm going to use the business word synergy.
Yeah, of course.
Accelerate that synergy a little bit more effectively. That was a big learning for me, is that we tend to want to keep programs and platforms and things separate depending on which team or which department is owning something. And the most important thing is actually that it's easy for the customers and what that customer experience looks like. And I had to learn that lesson the hard way a few times.
Yeah, that's great. I think that sometimes is something that we might missed. We know, like, we read everywhere like community ROI or community business value. Yeah, but there is not only business value side. We need also the member side or the customer side. We need kind
Well,
of.
yes, we absolutely have to have the customer side. It's also, I think, a mistake to say, well, this is the community value and this is product marketing's value and this is, customer marketing's value. Can we have some shared KPIs? Can we use the same stats? Can we say, hey, we came together and we all drove this KPI forward? And I think that that's part of it. Is it's a real miss when you try to sort of section off, well, this was this impact and this was this one over here. It pulls people away from collaborating and from being cross-functional. So I want to see us bring that together more. But absolutely, like, we have to think about the customer experience first, because if you don't do that, it doesn't matter how hard you try. If it's hard for the customers, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, I think that this is it's a like very like deep topic. No, even on LinkedIn, no, I would say like 10 days ago. I'm totally off the rail now, but this is an exciting topic. So like 10 days ago, someone says, "Hey, what is the kind of career path? No, who should the community team report to?" No, and then someone says, "Oh, lots of comments were about probably the operations function." Other says the marketing function. Currently, you can see a lot of community teams living under the marketing function,
Yep.
right? But I reply and say, no. I said the community function should report to the CX function because they have a seat at the table, so they can actually pool resources to support the community function. No, and then I also argue that for me, that is currently how I think. No, that's how, like how I see the professionals moving forward in their path. I mean, let's say community manager, senior community manager, director of community or head of community, senior director of community, and then you there is a ceiling there. So, but I
Yeah.
think that with all the experience you learn across, your progress, that is kind of where you are today. Like that is the next step. Like community, once you reach a level of expertise, you should move to CX because you already have the overview. You know how to run programs, and then you can look after everyone, even in a bigger scale. No, that's why I said in that day, no, like community should report to CX because in the end, the cool community people will end up leading the CX function. That's my brain, just like kind of no
Well, I
sharing.
can't disagree with you because that's been my career path. So, um,
Yeah, but
but
sometimes people just like stay on. I want to be like the senior director of community of X, and that's it. But then what else, right?
well, it's true. And I agree. Like, I think that this conversation about where community sits, it's been one we've been having for years. And for a long time, I've said it kind of doesn't matter. And I don't think that there's one right answer. I think it needs to be in a place where there's a leader that understands and supports it and where there's resources for the budget, right? To that end, I'm not a huge fan of community teams reporting under support, even though communities often have a strong support function, because support's typically seen as a cost center and you're not going to get resourced well there and you're not going to be able to grow and expand your programs. But I do, you're seeing more and more chief customer officers or chief CX officers. And I do like community sitting there. The key to me is that it's got to be someplace sort of in the middle of the business where they're supported in connecting with all of the other parts of the business and doing those pieces. And I think that community professionals also really need to be building those lateral skill sets, right? If community and running a forum is the only thing that you do, you are going to hit a ceiling, and you do need to start expanding out and understanding, how does this relate to marketing? How does this relate to education? How does this relate to customer success? All of those different pieces.
Yeah, 100%. Take notes, people. Take notes. There was a mic drop moment. Mic drop moment. All right. Now let's go on the funny part. So, your proudest community moment so far?
Oh my gosh. So I remember this very clearly. It was at Zendesk's big user conference a couple of years ago. And for years, we didn't even really have a community presence at the conference. And then there's a year where we had this like tiny little table in the corner with like one QR code. And then the year after that, we had fully launched our user groups program. We'd fully launched our customer advocacy program. And we had this huge corner in like the expo area. And it was this physical manifestation of everything we had built. And my team and I walked in and we saw all of these people that we had only ever talked to, in our
Chatting, right?
forums or on a like user group call. And they were all there and they were talking to each other. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, we did it. This is our community. It is physically here in the real world. And it was just amazing. It was such a good feeling that all of these relationships are happening, all of this activity that was going on. We had built that and we created this container for all of these people to come together and make that connection. And it was like, I can still remember when we were like sitting at lunch one day and kind of whiteboarding and coming up with these ideas. And wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? And suddenly, boom, there it was. And it was just the most satisfying feeling. So I was so proud of
Yeah.
the team. I was so excited for the community. And I was so excited that, it had become this really big, actual, like physically manifested thing that was helping people grow in their careers and have awesome friendships and connections and things like that.
Wow, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. Like
It was
you
pretty
just
exciting.
see. Yeah, for me it was like, for instance, like last year when we met for the first community-led work conference in London. Was I would say, of course, not 10,000s of people around, but at least 100 people that you were only on Zoom and chats on our community discussions. That now, oh, you are. Oh, I never thought you were that tall. I never thought you were that small. like oh,
Totally. Yep.
like because all these small no nuances that you don't realize over a Zoom call. So yeah,
Yep.
it's beautiful. So after this small hiccup, no, based on what you said about this, finally get your community together at this conference, having
Yep.
a physical space, getting all your members there, having chats. I was saying the same feeling was when we ran our first community network conference. Now we are getting almost double people next week, but was like connect with those that you were just chatting over Zoom online. No, nothing beats in person. Nothing. Like it's so
Yeah.
good. It's like so yeah, fulfilling. I don't know. I'm trying to find the best words to express like
Well, I've
what I
always,
feel when.
I mean, it's kind of magic, right? It's this thing where when you just talk to people online, even if they're like, that they're real people, they're still kind of like out there somewhere. You don't like really know them. And once you meet them in person, it just really changes the nature of that relationship. And I've always been a big fan of, I think it's great to build community online, and it provides so much access to so much conversation and the ability to connect with so many more people. But when you can pull it offline and bring it into the real world, that's really where like it really gets like rooted, and that's where
Yeah.
it's just magical.
Yes. Yes. I have like now. I feel that after the conference last year, I have now like even like friendships. That's totally different. So
Yeah,
yeah, it moves things to the next level, I would say.
for sure.
So you earlier on this no on this episode, you mentioned that things are changing, right?
Yep.
What's a big shift or trend in the community world you are paying close attention to?
I mean, honestly, I think everything is changing, and it's part of what I want to talk about is I think this is one of the biggest evolution points in communities. Over the last 15 years, we've seen things like companies trying to use social media as different platforms come out to build community, and a lot of them have kind of come back to forums. And then we saw chatbots come up, but I think that AI and the way that it's going to change the nature of how people relate, how people get information, how businesses operate, this is going to be a bigger shift than any of us have experienced for as long as community management has been a profession. Um, I think if I had to focus in on one thing, it's easy to say AI, right? Yeah, it's important. I actually think it's more about how communities are leaning into being more central to the business, being more cross functional. You're seeing a lot of the bigger platforms are now investing in how they're connecting with customer education, how they're connecting with customer marketing, how they're tying things into your CRM or your CSP. And so there's so many different things that are starting to come together. Whereas 10 years ago, communities were a lot more like we were kind of off in our own lane, doing our own thing. We talked about ourselves as like this little special unicorn in the business. And now it's like we are mission control. We are very, very
Mhm.
central to that customer experience. And so that's really where I'm focused is like, how do we embrace that and lean into it and grow it? Because I think it's a great thing. I think it's the thing that's going to sustain the community industry and actually really help us grow and make us more important, not less.
Yeah, 100%. The more connected, what we do is tied to actual like impacting the business outcomes is no, it's the safe place where we can be. That's the point.
It
No,
is. It's what gives us stability, but I think it's also the right choice for businesses. I think people are going to get really tired of just reading AI and talking to bots, and they're going to crave that human to human connection. And we're the ones that know how to provide that.
yeah, love it, love it. I'm going to quote that. That's good. That's good.
Job
Well,
security, right?
yeah, exactly. We have the rights of this show. Sorry. We have a toolbox time.
Yeah.
What's a go-to tool that you would recommend to fellow community pros?
Well, I'm here on behalf of Higher Logic Vanilla. I have to
Oh,
recommend our own tool, but I want to do this more objectively, which is to say, when I decided that I wanted to go over to a platform, I really gave a lot of thought to where I was going to go and what I wanted to do and who I wanted to work with. And one of the reasons that I chose Higher Logic is I thought their tool was really underestimated, right? I looked at the capabilities, I looked at what we could do in terms of data, I looked at what we're building in terms of AI, I looked at um, how they're building towards customization. I talked to the CEO and was like really picking his brain about the vision. And I think that it's been a tool that's been under leveraged in the enterprise space. I think people don't know how incredibly powerful it can be. And so I was really excited about that opportunity to get out here and really be able to help share that with people and say, hey, there's actually a ton of capability that people just maybe aren't aware of with this particular tool. So, obviously I'm a big fan of Biologic Vanilla. I've chosen to come to this organization for very good reason. That's not to say there aren't a lot of great tools out there, and everybody, should look at all of the different options and figure out the best one for them. But I'm gonna promote my own thing right now.
That's fair enough. I actually met Matt like 10 days ago. One of
Mhm.
your colleagues, and he showed me this small glimpse of how the templates work. Actually, that we
Yeah.
can actually customize the whole experience with the design. So I actually said, maybe we should launch together a marketplace for vanilla templates because
Yeah.
I was like looking at the structure and how it works, and I am fairly I know how to code and all that. So I was saying, maybe that is an opportunity for me. So yeah, I totally kind of back up your idea and how flexible the higher logic products are. So yeah, 100%, no problem. It's
Yeah.
okay to praise yourself today. It's fine. It's fine. Okay,
Part of
and
the job.
yeah, I know. We know that. Uh, uh, Schneider, Paul. We know that Paul is going to be looking at this spot. So Paul, yeah, all done. Check. The check is there. Okay. Then we have no, like just no, because now you are. Let's say you have done certain journey. So maybe you can look back and think those that are maybe getting started. Do you have any advice for those maybe that already moved to the community? No, they did the choice of moving. No, we have a song part of the London Community Week soundtrack named "The Choice," right? So for those that
Okay.
took the choice, what could be your advice? Those that are starting on this industry.
I think the biggest thing is to get out there and network with your peers and colleagues. Come to events like London Community Week, join webinars, get involved in the communities for community professionals, because most of us are in this profession because we love helping people. We
Yeah.
love sharing our knowledge. We love mentoring people. We love talking to each other. And there are so many incredibly smart, incredibly talented people in this industry. And it is shockingly easy to get a hold of them and pick their brain and learn a little bit. And so, especially because so many community builders, and when you're starting out, you're often a team of one or two. You're often going to be the only person at that organization that really knows much about community. I never had a boss that knew more about community than I did the whole
Mm.
time I've been in my career. And so who was I learning from? I was learning from all of the experts in the field. I was talking to Erica Cool and Brian Oblinger, and I was listening to all of the podcasts, and I was networking with people, and I was that's how I learned. And so if you are new and you are starting out, go seek out those opportunities and don't be scared to ask for help. Most of us are going to say yes every time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's great. And final vibe check. If you had to describe your vision for the future of communities in a sentence, let's say 3 words, what that would be?
Oh boy. I'm trying to come up with a 3-word sentence that makes sense. I'm just going to give you 3 words. So I think uh, empowered is the first one, because I think that where communities used to kind of be off in a dusty corner, we're going to
Yeah.
be empowered to be really essential to the business. Innovative. Um, as I said, I think this is a really special moment and opportunity right now for us to embrace all of the change in the industry and design what communities look like in the future. We get to be the ones that decide what is the right balance of human versus technology. So empowered, innovative, and I'm going to go collaborative. And that's a really obvious word for community because communities are all about collaboration and connectivity. But I also think collaborative in terms of building broader networks across businesses, building broader networks within businesses, and connecting with other parts. Um, yeah, those are my words: innovative, empowered, and collaborative.
Love it. That's great. That's great. Well, we have reached the list, well, the final part of the list. So I'm really glad to have you today. Also, like Like it was like a funny accident that Katerina couldn't take this episode because I got the privilege myself. So that's great.
Well, I'm so glad to be here. I'm so excited to come to London next week and meet everybody and talk with everyone. And thank you for putting all this together, Francisco.
Well, we have a big team actually, like helping us. We have around 14 volunteers on site during the London Community Weeks supporting all this. Plus,
Amazing.
kind of the led by community team, kind of the core team that is five, five of us, including me.
Small
So
but
the
mighty.
kudos, yeah, the kudos is for all of them really. Like I am just trying to facilitate things and connecting the dots because I feel that as part of what you shared today is true. Like there are ways to push the industry forward and to help elevate community managers. I feel that that is kind of my driver these days. Exciting.
Absolutely. Well,
All
congratulations to
right.
you and congratulations to your whole team.
Yes, they deserve. Thank you. I'll pass the love. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. And of course, if you want to learn more about London Community Week, you can just go to the description below. You will find probably a link there to join us. You still have time to get your pass. And if you want a special price, just when you are doing your checkout, use London 10. London 10. That will give you 10 off any pass type. Okay, see you everyone. Thank you again, Nicole, and see you next
Thank
week.
you. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.